I go from being the darling of a home healthcare agency to being a nuisance. And there really needs to be better protection for clients who report their caregivers, because not only do those caregivers get to come back to work a lot of the time when those clients report them, the clients get the backlash. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of the Nick Speaks podcast, the podcast dedicated to the disabled community where we speak up, speak out, and speak loud. I am your host, Nicolas Comstock. You guys, I am so glad that you're joining me today. Before I get into the meat of today's episode, I want to give you a couple house cleaning notes, and that is, if you want to reach out to me to be on my podcast, or you just want to tell me how much you enjoy the show, or you have a show suggestion, you can email me at nickspeaksofficial@gmail.com. I love hearing from my viewers, so feel free to drop me a note and say hey at nickspeaksofficial@gmail.com. This goes for if you want to be a guest, if you want to invite me to be on your podcast, or if you just want to drop a note and say hi. Also, if you want me to speak at your engagement, you can also email me there as well at nickspeaksofficial@gmail.com. Also, I want to remind you that you can also listen to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and you can also watch it on my YouTube channel at Nicolas Comstock. And we are at 525 subscribers as of this recording. So if you would give me a wonderful free Christmas gift and go over to my YouTube channel at Nicolas Comstock and subscribe so that we could get to 1,000, that would be great. Greatly appreciated. So now that those house cleaning notes are out of the way, you guys, I want to talk about some of the biggest frustrations that I have with home health care. I've been in the home health care system as a client since 2012, and I am someone that needs total care. I need someone to help me prepare my meals. I need someone to help me do personal care, brief changes, showers, meal prep. I need help with everything. So I need 24/7 care. I'm in a wheelchair for those of you who may be listening for the first time. I'm in a wheelchair. I have CMV, cytomegalovirus, which I just tell people is a part of the cerebral palsy family. I like to say that I'm mentally enabled, but physically disabled. Or physically disabled, but mentally enabled. I said it the wrong way. But anyway, you get the point. And so I rely on someone every day to take care of me. For the first about 25 years of my life, I relied on my family to be my primary caregivers. And then as I got older and bigger and my family members started to leave the house and do their own thing, it got really difficult for my mom, who was my primary caregiver for a long time, to take care of me. So we started having caregivers come in the year 2012, and I've had care ever since. And it really has been a journey. And to be honest with you, it's really sad. I've had more bad caregivers than good. That's another thing I want to tell you. If you want to hear me talk about my caregiver journey a lot, I talk about it on my TikTok at Nicolas Comstock. Now you say TikTok is about to go away. We don't know that for sure. I know the ruling's been in place, but go follow me there anyway, and plus you can follow me on YouTube. Anyway, so I've had more bad caregivers than good, unfortunately. And so today I want to talk about some of my main frustrations that I have with caregiving. The first main frustration that I have is there are more foreigner caregivers than there are American caregivers. In fact, 100% of my staff are from another country. Now, I love you if you're from another country, and if you're a caregiver and you're here in this country making an honest living as a foreigner, I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you chose this as a profession. But one of the biggest frustrations I have with my caregivers is language barrier. And if we could work on teaching these caregivers better English skills, because, you're dealing with some cases that have very fragile medical concerns. And if your client can't communicate with you effectively, and you can't communicate with your client effectively, that's a problem. I can't tell you how many times during the day I have to repeat myself because my caregivers, who again, I love dearly, but they can't understand me. There's a very deep language barrier. And so I wish that a couple things would happen. Number one, I wish we would have more Americans sign up for this field. Number two, if we're going to have the foreign caregivers, I welcome you. I appreciate your hustle, because I'm telling you, a lot of foreigners like to work harder than Americans do. And if we're going to allow foreign people to come into the caregiving field, the agencies need to have like an English class or something to teach their caregivers basic English skills. Because I have a caregiver that has been in the United States since 2023, and I can't tell you how many times a day I repeat myself for him because he can't understand me. So I feel like there needs to be some training on the home health care agency's part, and some training within the states that these people who come here the right way and they choose home health care as their profession, that they also get a huge brush up on their English skills, not only for their sake, but simply for their clients' safety, so that they can communicate effectively with their client. Also, around that point, I struggle a lot with caregivers who don't know how to cook. And I don't know how you caregivers eat. I guess you just, expect to go out to eat all the time. Well, someone like myself, who is on a very limited income, I receive $70 a month in food stamps, and I receive $769 in Social Security, and I receive another $194 from the Social Security Disabled Child Benefit. So that's not a lot of money. Put all that together, that's not a lot of money. And I'll let you do the math on that. I went to special ed. I'm not real bright when it comes to math. But that's not a lot of money. So having to go out to eat all the time, or to buy frozen food all the time, just because caregivers don't know how to make a simple meal like meatloaf or mashed potatoes or spaghetti and meatballs. Right now, I have caregivers on my team who literally do not know how to use an oven. Like, seriously? So again, I think that this has to, again, fall to the agencies and train your caregivers how to do basic house tasks, train them how to cook, train them how to do your client's laundry, train them how to use a washing machine, train them how to use a vacuum. Because I'm telling you, especially when it comes to these foreign people that come in and do this job, they would probably have no problem sitting in a dirty house all day. But that's not how I want to live. And so doing these extra trainings for these caregivers who come from another country and who really want to do the job and do it well would be grateful, would be great. And it really is a frustrating thing. Caregivers who don't know how to cook, caregivers who can speak very little English, caregivers who have no idea about the American culture. And then because caregiving agencies are so desperate for bodies that they'll just hire anybody these days. Now, thankfully, here in Ohio, I was a part of a group called Bridge to Equality, working to bridge the gap. And we were tasked with helping our caregivers get better pay raises. And we've done that. And we take care of our caregivers very well here in Ohio. And so before you say, well, it's about the pay, well, if you're really doing this for the pay, you're doing it for the wrong reason. I'm just going to be honest. But we need to work on better English training and better cooking skills and just better life skills. Because these clients deserve to live their best life. But if they can't communicate properly with their caregivers, then they're not going to be able to live their best life. And I remember I had a caregiver who came to me several years ago. It was like maybe the second or third year I had been in caregiving as a client. And she said to me, Nick, I have to stop working for you, because if I don't stop working for you, then I'm going to lose my benefits from the government. Perfectly able-bodied person. Didn't have any disabilities to my knowledge. She just didn't want to lose her government benefits. She didn't want that gravy train to stop. And even though the pay is an issue, I will give you credit there. If the government is willing to pay people to stay at home more money than they would if they're working a job, something's wrong, and we need to fix that. Another issue that I have with caregiving is caregivers don't treat this like a regular job. And what I mean by that is because it is in a home atmosphere, and they don't have a supervisor over them directly, making sure that they do their job every day, and they don't have someone to report to at the end of the day. Caregivers can feel that they can come and go as they please. And as long as they do the bare minimum, then that is fine with them. And if you're going to be a caregiver, or if you are a caregiver, I'm sorry, the bare minimum is not enough. The bare minimum is not enough. And before you go off in my comments and say, Nick, I getting $10 an hour to change an adult diaper is not correct, is not right. First of all, I'm an adult. I don't wear diapers. I wear briefs. So let's get that correct right away. Don't use the word diaper in my comments. Use the word brief or tens or underwear, whatever you want to say. Just don't use that horrible word. And I agree with you. And I will say that having to do that for somebody, I don't think there's any amount of money that you could pay me to clean somebody else's butt. You just have to do it out of the goodness of your heart and do it out of the compassion for people. Because unfortunately, there are people in this world, and I'm one of them, that need help having my butt cleaned every day. And so you got to stop looking at dollar signs when it comes to that, and just do that particular job out of the goodness of your heart, and realize that one day you may be in the position of having to have that done to you, and be as good as your client, be as good to your clients as you can be, because one day, most without a doubt, you're going to be in the position of needing a caregiver to take care of you. And when I say that caregivers don't treat this like a normal job, meaning that, at Walmart, you may be on schedule to come in from 9 to 5. And if you're not there at 9 o'clock, or 9:15, if Walmart has grace period, you're going to get written up. And if you do that multiple times, you're going to get fired. Well, most people know that caregiving is a desperate field and they always need somebody. So I feel like caregivers take advantage of that, and they say, well, I know I'm supposed to be there at 8 o'clock, but if I show up at 8:30, at least I showed up today. No, the problem is you showed up at 8:30. You were supposed to be there at 8 o'clock, and then you weren't supposed to leave until 4, and you want to turn around and ask your client if you can leave at 2:30. And then expect that to be okay. And then another thing that irritates me is that caregivers want to use their clients' time and paid time to run their own personal errands instead of getting the client out of the community and out into the community, not out of the community, out into the community. And don't do that. If your client, is kind enough, if you say, hey, after we go to your event or your doctor's appointment, do you mind if I stop at Walmart and pick up a couple things? I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but the thing is, if a client says yes, then you start taking advantage of that every day, and I just don't think that's fair. I also, one of my other biggest issues for me as a client is that caregivers spend hours on the phone. They're always on the phone. I'm struggling with this right now with all my caregivers. They're always on the phone talking to other people. I said 100%, in the beginning of this episode, I said 100% of my caregivers are foreigners from other countries. And they are always on the phone talking in their other language to their folks. But I have trouble getting them to talk and connect with me. And one of the things is, they're like, Nick, I don't like to talk too much. Well, that's not true, because you spend every waking moment that you're with me on the phone. So really, caregivers, get off the phone. Spend time with your client. Get to know them, because they need you. You may be the only person that can bring light into their day. And if you're on the phone, instead of attending to them when they need something, and don't attend to them while you're still on the phone either. Don't be like, sure, I'll come give you a brief change whenever you need it, but I'm going to be on the phone with my girlfriend or my wife or my boyfriend. No, 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 no. You tell that person you can call them back. And I I've dealt with this with every provider that I've had, and I'm still dealing with it. And it's like, if you were at a normal job and you were on your phone the entire 8 hours that you were working, I don't think you would be working there for very long. And so, really, just have a respect for your clients and for your client's home as well. Another thing that I feel like I struggle with as far as caregiving, when caregivers come in and they get comfortable, they get so comfortable that they feel like they're still they're coming into their best friend's home. And while I want to be friends with my caregivers, you're still coming into a client's home that is also your workplace. So you have to figure out that fine line. And it is a fine line, and it's difficult. Sometimes you can blur it very well. And, several of you out there have probably done it. And I would love to have more conversations with you about the difficulty in caregiving. And also, I want to go back to coming in on time. Like I said, when I talked about that just a little bit ago, some caregivers think it's okay to come in at 8:30 when they were scheduled to come in at 8 a.m. And then they want to leave at 2:30 when they're not scheduled to leave at 4 until 4. Well, think about it this way. You are your client's arms and legs. Without you, they're not able to get out of bed and do their daily task. So when you decide to come in at 8:30 instead of 8 a.m. and leave at 2:30 instead of staying till 4 p.m. when you're scheduled to leave, you're basically saying, I don't care that you're sitting in your urine from the night before, or I don't care that you're sitting in your feces from the night before. I'm going to come in at 8:30 because that's more convenient for me. You say, Nick, well, I have kids and I have to take them to school. That's fine. I totally understand that. Then don't pick up that first shift. When you pick up that first shift, you're supposed to be there at 8 o'clock, not 8:30. If you're supposed to be there at 7 o'clock, you're supposed to be there at 7 o'clock, not 7:30. When you pick up that first shift, you automatically gave up the right to take your kids to school. You can't say, yeah, I'll be here at 7 o'clock, but it's really going to be 7:30 because I have to take my kids to school. No, if that's the case, I understand that being a parent is a very important job, and it is the top job to do. But you can't tell an employer at Walmart, hey, I'll sign up to be here at 7 a.m. every day and then show up at 7:30. You wouldn't be at Walmart very long. So why is it okay for caregivers to do that? It's not. Because remember, you are your client's arms and legs. And a lot of times they're in bed until you get there the next day. I know this because this has happened to me several times. And so, this is a job just like every other job. Just because it's a more relaxing atmosphere does not give you the right as a caregiver to take advantage of that relaxed atmosphere. Show up on time. You're your client's arms and legs. Engage with your client. Get off the cell phone. Learn to cook. If you don't know how to cook, get on YouTube University and learn how to cook. And I encourage a lot of home health care agencies, teach your caregivers how to cook basic meals like meatloaf, mashed potatoes, spaghetti and meatballs, taco salad, basic meals, especially ones that it seems like a lot of these agencies are 100% foreigners. So yes, teach them how to cook American meals. Help them adapt to the American culture. Teach them English. Have English classes for them. Because if they can't properly communicate with your client and something bad happens to them agencies, then that's on you. And you're going to have to answer to the state for that. You know, another difficulty that I have with caregiving is that there seems to be more protection for the caregivers. And I know that a lot of people would probably disagree with me. But in my experience, there seems to be more protection for the caregivers than there is for the clients. I'll give you a couple of examples. Memorial Day, several years ago, I ended up reporting one of my caregivers because she was just being really verbally abusive to me. And I ended up reporting her. She didn't like the way I was eating my chicken. I tell this story on my TikTok, but it's way far down on my TikTok, so I'll just tell you the story here. This caregiver, who we'll call Mama Jean, did not like the way I was eating my chicken. I was eating chicken with my fingers, which for me, I thought that's how I've eaten chicken my whole life. So she didn't like the way I was eating it. And her response was, Mama Jean's response was, oh my God, didn't your parents teach you anything? And so, you know, she started verbally abusing me because of that. Well, I reported it to my case manager. Well, one of my other staff heard me dictating an email to my case manager and decided to be a snitch bitch. That's right. I said a snitch bitch, and tell the staff member that I was reporting to my case manager. This other staff member told the staff member that I was reporting her. And so Mama Jean decided not to feed me for the entire day and not to talk to me and pretended like I didn't exist. I lived with roommates at the time. And when I reported this to the state, they said, when I reported the fact that Mama Jean did not feed me all day, when I reported this to the state, they said, because you were able to buy your own food, we cannot process this as neglect. But Mama Jean will be retrained so that this does not happen again. Excuse me? What kind of bull crap is that? And then, you know, I had a caregiver that decided to put me in bed. You know, once he put me in bed at night, he decided to go out and party at 2 or 3 in the morning. And I would call him. I'd be like, hey, dude, I have to pee. Okay, I'll be there. And I would call him and be like, are you out? He'd be like, no, I'm not out. But I could hear people in the background. But I didn't report him because most every time it's, you know, whatever the agency says and the client says, it's my word against theirs. But you let a caregiver report SA against a client, you know, that a client is SAing them, oh, that caregiver is taken off the case. But a moment that a client reports a caregiver, oh, well, they're still going to have to work with you because we don't have anybody to cover your shift. Or we don't believe that client. Or the client's just making up something. What I've discovered through my journey of having caregivers and having case managers and having to deal with the state altogether is that people do not like me because I know what I want. I am a high functioning client. I am my own guardian. And when I can speak up and say that these things are wrong and these things need to be changed, I go from being the darling of a home health care agency to being a nuisance. And there really needs to be better protection for clients who report their caregivers, because not only do those caregivers get to come back to work a lot of the time when those clients report them, the clients get the backlash about why did we report them and why didn't we just talk to you about it? Well, I can tell you right now, first of all, as much as I hate to admit it, a person like me who is in a wheelchair and needs help with everything is very vulnerable. So if I confront you about something and you don't like the way that you're confronted about it, then you could just go off and hit me or something or do something dangerous to me. I don't know what you're capable of doing. So a lot of times I don't feel comfortable saying those things. So that's why I will go to the office instead of going directly to the caregiver. And a lot of times when a caregiver gets close, they're like, how could you report me? I thought we were friends. Yeah, I thought we were friends. So why would you leave me to pee my bed so that you could go out and party? Yeah, I thought we were friends. So why would you leave me hungry all day and not able to eat just because you got mad that I reported you? Yeah, I thought we were friends. So why is it okay for you to take me to your errands and do what you need to do, but then what I need to do is not as important and you're too tired? That's not how real friends treat each other. If you're going to look at that way, caregivers. And I say this all the time. A caregiver is a friend when there are no friends to be found. That is truly a statement that I believe. And so if we're going to go with I thought we were friends, why would you treat me that way? Well, then the next time you think of being late, just because it's out of pure convenience, caregivers, why would you leave your client sitting in a brief that has probably needed to be changed for the last half hour? But they're waiting on you because the other staff has decided to go ahead and leave because you made them late to their other job. Yeah. So how can you do this? How can you do these things that I've mentioned and that I've had happen to me if we're friends? If that's the way friends are, I don't need friends. So yeah, these are just some things that I've really struggled with as a client and caregiving. And I would love to discuss this. I would love to discuss this more, you guys. And I would love to talk about it with you more about the struggles of caregiving, because there are a lot. There are just a few. Sorry, you guys, I've got another event to go to and it just popped it up on my phone. But these are just some of the struggles. If we're going to have foreign caregivers, teach them better English skills, teach them how to cook, realize that even though you're in a relaxed atmosphere, that this is still a job And if you're going to be friends with your client, that's all well and good. Well, then treat them as you would treat your friends. Now, if you treat your friends like shit, don't treat your clients like shit. Treat your clients better than you would treat your friends if you treat them like shit. But honestly, there needs to be some well done home health care reforms. And, if you say, well, the pay needs to be adjusted, first of all, I'll say to that respect before I leave today, if you're struggling with pay in your state as far as home health care, then you need to talk to your senators, you need to talk to your congressman, and you need to talk to your governor. You say, well, I've done all that, and that hasn't worked. Listen, the loudest voices are the ones that get the most done. That's the reason this country has been in a mess the last 4 years, because the loudest voices have been able to do the most damage. That's why the mantra of this podcast is speak up, speak out, and speak loud, because you have to speak loud in order to get everything, in order to get anything done. And you may have to speak loud for 10 or 20 years for it to get done. And pick up the volume if things aren't getting done in your state as far as home health care giving. But yeah, these are some of the struggles that I've faced with home health care since I've been in as a client. And I hope that I've struck some nerves today, and maybe some things will change. And I would love to hear from you. So email me at nickspeaksofficial@gmail.com and subscribe to me on YouTube at Nicolas Comstock. Let's get to 1,000 subscribers. And remember, you can listen to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or my YouTube channel. And if you're listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify, make sure to give Nick Speaks a 5-star rating so that more people can find out about Nick Speaks, the podcast dedicated to the disabled community, where we speak up, speak out, and speak loud. I will see you guys next time. Thank you for watching and listening. Bye-bye.